Well, hello. Welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger on October 17, 2021. It's been raining for almost a whole bloody week, but it looks like it's going to start clearing up tomorrow. So that is good because Kitten and I will be uh, having a bit of an adventure this week. So having some good weather will definitely be appreciated. Not to mention, it's just good to get a little bit of a sunshine once in a while. This time of the year, where you live up north, Canada, Alaska, you know what I'm talking about. You tend to get this feeling where you're going to turn into a slug or something because you haven't been getting your vitamin D and you're starting to feel cranky or depressed, or not that I feel cranky or depressed, mind you. I'm the most even-tempered guy in the world. Well, okay, I'm not, but I'm doing okay. I do miss my daily dose of sunshine, so it will be good to have some good weather. Growing up, in the kind of family that I grew up in, I know that was like a sudden going off in a different direction. But hey, you can only talk about weather for so long before running out of things to say. So anyway, growing up in the kind of family that I grew up in, which I can best describe it as very, very high pressure, very high expectation. Uh, a lot of people don't really think about it. Uh, this past Wisdom Wednesday, I talked about the kind of pressure that Chinese students face in the school system there, and the high exam, the expectation, the disappointment, all that surrounding Chinese students and their education. Now, a lot of people think, well, okay, if you don't like it, why don't you go to a different country? Well, it doesn't actually end when you go to a different country. Because now all you do is you go from uh, the fire, you go from the frying pan into the fire. Because now, in addition to your family's expectation of you, which will double when you go to a different country. Uh, take me and my siblings, for example. When we were in Taiwan, the expectation was just that we had to perform well, really well in school. You get high mark, that's that. You don't get high mark, then okay, no, you get punished. You try again next time, which was harsh, but very one-dimensional, very straightforward. Once we came to Canada, that became a, a emotional, psychological kind of problem. Now, if we don't get high mark, if we don't behave, if we fail to meet expectation, then we not only get punished physically, now we get that whole uh, talk. That's usually when something like, "Do you know what your mom and I had to sacrifice to bring you here? Do you know how much money is it costing me to keep you here? Do you know that I could be back in Taiwan right now having a good life rather than being here with you, cold and wet and miserable, and have to deal with all this white people crap? And why do I do it? Because I want you guys to have a good education. And this is how you repay me? Yeah." So not only we have to deal with the physical trauma of being punished, now we have to get guilt tripped every single time that our father or mother or other family member, yeah, other family member would do it to us too. Yeah. So, for example, let's say I get on the phone and talk to my aunt. I said, let's say I start to complain about I had an argument with my dad, or my mom just doesn't understand me. You know, the usual teenage stuff. If I was in Taiwan, my aunt would listen patiently and say something like, "Oh yeah, you know, your mom is just the way she is. You know, you got to be patient with her." Or on a very good day, she might say, You know what? I understand. I totally understand. I'll have a word with your mom. Okay? Everything will be okay." But now, because we moved to Canada, if I get on the phone with my other family member and start complaining about what's going on in my life, the first thing that come out of their mouth is, "You know, you're really ungrateful. Your parents sacrificed so much to get you guys there. You know how many of us would like to be there? And now you want to complain about your parents? You ought to be ashamed of yourself." So suddenly we lose all the support, sympathy that we would have gotten from other family members. It's a horrible situation. Being an immigrant, being the child of an immigrant parent, horrible, horrible business uh, for the most part. So all that is to go back to what I mentioned first. I grew up in a high pressure, high expectation, a lot of punishment kind of family. So as I was growing up, and after I grew up, and I started to pay attention to other people's family, how other people are so nice to their children. Some people they are so liberal. They don't have unreasonable expectation. There's no punishment, hardly ever. Definitely no punishment for failing your subject, failing math or something like that. And there's no psychological guilt trip. I've came across parents that have the attitude that, oh, you know, as long as our children are happy, that's fine. And I always thought, wow, I would kill to have parents like that. Like, why can't I have parents like that? Everyone would want parents like that. Everyone would love to have parents like that. So you can imagine, it kind of blew my mind. One time when I was chatting with my friend Tim, and the subject went around to childhood, what our childhood was like. And Tim said to me, he was telling me about his parents, and his dad sounded like the kind of dad that I would love to have, the kind of dad that I thought everyone should have. His dad didn't care about their school mark, didn't care if they succeed or not. All he cared about was if they were happy, if they were fed, if they had clothes, if they had their allowances, as long as they were happy, whatever. He didn't care for about the rest. And then Tim said something that really blew my mind. He said, "I hated it." He said, you, "I always wonder, even now when I'm in my 50s, I wonder about if my dad was more assertive and expect more from us, maybe we would have accomplished greater things in life. But because he was so laid back, we didn't amount to anything." I didn't I didn't know how to respond to that because the idea that anyone would resent parents like that never occurred to me until then. It was such a foreign concept. But when I really start to think about it, then it makes sense. It makes sense because everyone is different. And until you stand in the other shoe, the grass always seemed greener on the other side of the field, on the other side of the fence. In Mandarin, we say the moon in the foreign country always look bigger and brighter, and to basically say the same thing. So maybe because Tim had such a laid-back father, that made him think that if he could have, he would have, blah, blah, blah. But if he had the kind of dad that I had, most likely he would have felt different. Uh, who knows? I am not a parent. I've never been a parent and probably never will be. So I have no authority from experience speaking about parenthood. I can only use examples that I've encountered in my life and my clients, my friends, my relatives to draw my conclusion on. So take what I say tonight with a grain of salt. Maybe I really have no idea what I'm talking about. But one thing that I have come to believe in is that good people will be good, bad people will be bad, driven people will be driven, laid back people will be laid back. Parenthood has some role to play, but I'm beginning to think that you can read all the textbook in the world on parenting. You can watch all the how-to videos on parenting. You can go to classes, you can take courses, you can go to lectures, and you can learn everything you can, and you can be the perfect parent. But the result is still going to be unpredictable, so unpredictable that sometimes it really will knock you off your feet when you see how children will turn out despite the best effort of the parent. I mean, it's no surprise, it's no news that we already know. I'm sure any one of you look around you in your life, in other people's life, you can name some people that rise out of the ashes. They have the most horrible family imaginable, and yet they rise above what they were given and they didn't cave in, while everyone else that came from the same circumstance didn't do as well. I know because I am one such example. My family sucked. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I think in this world, if 10 being the worst and 1 being the best, my family probably rank up there either at 8 or a 9, being very close to being the worst. Um, and yet, there have been people who come from perfectly good parents and they get messed up out of nowhere, out of the blue. I remember not really a friend, but this acquaintance of my ex-girlfriend. Both couple, husband and wife, really, really hardworking, really, really kind, gentle people, go to church every Sunday, and they decided to uh, homeschool their children because they didn't trust the big bad world outside. They didn't trust the public school system. They wanted to shelter their children and teach them and bring them up with gentleness and kindness and love, Christian values, vegetarian, the whole work. Sound great, right? I mean, well, I mean, okay, it doesn't sound really all that great to me. I wouldn't want to be brought up like that, but like you would think that being brought up like that, the children have no reason to go really, really off the road. But somewhere along the line, one of their daughters, when she turned 13 or 14, started to display very disturbing traits. One of such disturbing traits was she decided she didn't like to shower or bathe. She didn't like people, so she refused to make friends, and she started to like to dissect animals. Yeah, she had pets like guinea pigs and stuff. And when the pets passed away, she dissected them and embalmed them and kept them in her freezer. Right? 13-year-old girl grew up in a perfectly ordinary, kind Christian family. Suddenly started doing stuff like that. Like, how would you even quantify something like that happening? It's beyond the scope of imagination. Looking back in my own family, me and my four other siblings, there were five of us, we all basically went through the same thing. We had the same father, we came from different mothers, but we all had to survive in this chaotic, violent family situation. Now, I will say, the situations were not perfect copies of each other. For example, I had to do this blind and partially deaf, while the rest of them didn't have to. Uh, so I think I had a little bit worse. The rest of them would disagree, but it's my show, it's my segment, so I what I say is law. That's the great part of having your own video cast or podcast. Yes, whatever you say, go. If they want to dispute me, they're welcome to start their own. Anyway, all five of us basically went through the same family, the same upbringing, the same violence, the same uh, terrors, and the same super high expectations. But all five of us turned out very, very different. My oldest sister, our firstborn, she is a very generous person to whom the concept of money is a mystery to her. She had no idea how to save money, no idea how to safeguard money, but she spent it really, really well. She's great at making friends, very extroverted, very easy to get along with until she loses her temper. When she loses her temper, she can turn into a bit of a violent psychopath. I'm not kidding about that. My sister, when she loses her temper, she's the kind of uh, woman that would go to the kitchen, grab a knife, and start waving it around in the air. And you never know if she's going to cut someone or cut herself or what's going to happen. That's the kind of person my sister, my oldest sister, turned out to be. My second sister, she's a very gentle soul. She would faint at uh, too much blood. If she sees a lot of blood, she faint. And if she gets scared or too upset, she'll faint. Uh, she is very forgiving, uh, and very uh, outgoing, like to make friends. Uh, she lived her life in a haze of denial, which she feel that the world would be a good place, that everyone would be good people as long as she keep belief in it. She has a lot of faith in the power of belief, and that's how she lives her life, and that is how she get hurt over and over and over again. Next, my older brother David, who spent his life trying to emulate my father, always looking for that big break, always looking for the easiest way to make money. The shadier, the better. The more criminal, the better. He believed that the big break is just around the corner. It's a big job is just over the horizon. spent his life being wanted by both the law and other criminals, always being hunted by people. We never know if he's going to be dead or alive tomorrow. And then my younger brother Peter, who lived his life in somewhat of a parasitic uh, scenario. All right, I will say this. My younger brother has always have a kind of a leech mentality. He is very, very good with money, contrary to my sisters and brother David. Brother Peter, very, very good with money. He's the kind of person who, if you want to get a dime out of him, you need to give him $2 first. His relationship with the world is the world have to give him more than he dishes out. If you want to be his friend, if you want to be uh, close to him, then you have to benefit him more than he benefit you. He lived very, very smart, very clever, very, very tight pocket. Uh, his whole life philosophy is it's all about what makes him happy, what benefits him, and him only. And then there's me. I don't even need to talk too much about me by this time. You guys know who I am, what I do. So yeah, all five of us, very, very different people, coming from the same chaos was my family. So you see, I think that parenting in the very end is like everything else you can do in life. Maybe that's no different. Maybe parenting is just like everything else in life. In the end, you can only try to do the best you know how, but the result is entirely not up to you. And thank you for checking out today's very rambling Soul Search Sunday. We'll be back again tomorrow for some fun and singing and songs with Kitten.